and I create Tensor technology tools. Now, there's a lot of people out there doing Tensor technology that actually Slim Sperling brought out in late 80s, early 90s. And the technology helps, depending on which, what I call it, qubit that was used, on what frequency it actually healed in the physical being or energetic being. Now, when he was doing all these experiments and understandings with technology, he actually open sourced all of this information to everybody on the planet. So anybody can make Tensor technology. And you'll see it at every conference around the world. There's people here in South Dakota, Twisted Sage, Brian Besco. There's a gentleman in Australia who has a very large assortment of tools. But they're working strictly with the Tensor technology. What I do is work with other aspects of it. So let's get back to the beginning. My initial start in life was a mechanic. So I have a lot of time and experience working with my hands and understanding how things work. So I did that for about 13 years, and then I moved into technology and understanding engineering technology. So, and at that point, I ended up very much so into understanding engineering principles and how things are more written down in a data sense and understanding how things work. So I had the physical understanding as a mechanic, and then I went into the other side of things with engineering. That's okay. I know. It's all right. So anyway, about 5 years ago, I found a couple videos of Slim Sperling. Okay. Oh, no worries. So a few years ago, I saw a few videos on YouTube on Slim Sperling and how he produced a couple rings. It was based off of the sacred cubit. Now, the sacred cubit is actually the measurement that the Great Pyramid of Giza is actually crafted from. It was actually found in the king's chamber. They actually saw this on the inscription wall, on the inscriptions on the pathway all the way up to the king's chamber, and they understood the length of this. And they actually, if you actually look at the information behind it, all the measurements were based off of that. So Slim used that measurement and actually created a tensor ring based on that. And what he found was that is actually a resonant frequency of hydrogen, and it recreated a resonance in the human body to actually incur healing. So physical body healing. So I thought it was really interesting. Let's follow up with this information. And after that, I went through as much as I could, a couple books on Slim Sperling, found that Brian Besco was doing a bunch of information out there on his website, on information on different tensor rings that were not described in Slim Sperling's information. And what it was people understanding Slim's work and dowsing or having channeled information on what rings and what frequencies were coming through. And these different frequencies worked on different aspects of our being, whether it's physical or energetic. So over the last couple of years, I've actually created very large meditation rings. And based on each one is a chakra. So we have 7 for the chakras, 1 for the root chakra, sacral, and on and on. And each one of these actually works very much so on that particular chakra and the energy of that chakra. So you'll end up feeling different energies. Maybe it's on a knee or a hip for a sacral or or solar plexus, where you're hiding your energy or restrictions. So based on that, I went in a little bit further and I started like, okay, we're doing this work. We see all these different frequencies. I ended up having a channel session for myself, and I found another ring. And this one actually has not been published to the public, and it's called the Unity Ring. And this particular ring actually helps ground you, center your chakras, balance you out, and collect soul shards. So energetic pieces that we leave in emotional points in our life, whether it's this current lifetime or previous lifetimes. So after that was found, I was like, okay, this is interesting. We have other rings that were doing other things. So going through all these things, we found that some of the rings amplify sound. So we can actually put them under singing bowls, and it turns them on like almost like an amplifier to them, and it creates them to resonate longer and changes the frequency of them, and it's very, very impressive how much they actually change the tones of those bowls. So I was going to a sound bath, and we actually ended up having rings under every single bowl. And it was extremely impressive. And the sound bath actually had all 14 crystal bowls, your standard octave chakras and the higher octave chakras. And it was really, really powerful. It changed it from being in a room with crystals to almost feel like you're in a cathedral with it resonating against the ceiling and the walls. It was that powerful. So that was my first real impact on what these tensor rings could really, really do to impact everybody. So in that sense, I went and did further work on myself to understand how things are going and heal myself. And during one of these sessions of healing, I had a message. And it went through, it's like, okay, we're doing this. We worked on this part, we were healing. And I was told, it's like, well, you have a message from Archangel Metatron. I'm like, okay, that's interesting, that's a first. And I got a message, and it said, you need to create an anklet. And this anklet has 5 crystals in it. It has to have these 5 crystals in it. It has to be in a ring. So this is actually a ring folded down flat, and it has the 5 crystals in it, and it has to be encased in a copper mesh. Now, the intention behind this particular anklet was to keep you in your own vibrational state. So at the time I was channeled this message, it wasn't as important as it is today, with all the energy being thrown around and the spiritual war we're going through of our own hearts and minds that they're trying to control through media and other means, through all these frequencies they're throwing at us. These actually help you maintain your own frequency even if everybody is throwing it at you. So this is what was channeled to me. It took me about a year and a half to actually develop it to a point where you can actually wear it and it won't disintegrate. So that's a good thing. So we ended up getting that worked out. And then I didn't do anything with it for about a year. And then my wife got a message in a dream state where these 3 ginormous alien beings came through, about 100 feet tall, you were saying, in the dream state and said, you really need to have him build these now. And I was like, okay, I've never had giant beings coming through, so I went with that and I started producing them. And when I started having people try them on and experience the difference that you feel when you can understand your own energy versus everybody else's around you. Because we're trying to grow and understand our spiritual selves, but we don't understand how powerful we really are. Now, we throw our energy around whether we know it or not, and when you're wearing these, it actually helps you maintain your own energy without being impacted by anybody else in the room. So when you walk into a conference, you can actually be confident that you're not being emotionally pushed, whether it's good, bad, ugly, whichever it is, but you can be your own energy. So that was the first experience with the Archangel Metatron anklet. And what was interesting with that is I actually had an accountant friend who was she was very sensitive and she wanted to try them out. So she tried them and she wore them around, and her husband gave her a really hard time with it. It's like, what are those? And she, he didn't believe in the woo-woo and all that. So she ended up giving them back to me without able to actually experience the actual difference in the change. So I was like, okay. I basically sat down, meditation. It's like, how can we make this work for people that might be criticized by wearing those copper anklets? What came was a pendant. So you put it in a pendant and nobody would ever think twice. It might be bigger, it might be a little bit different, but it's still a pendant, and that's just, nobody would think about it. So the pendants are the culmination of the change from Metatron anklet to a Metatron pendant. Now, there is a difference between the two on their energies. So the anklet will actually cap your torus, your energetic field, your torus. It caps it so that you're isolating your energy field. The pendant itself creates a force field above your emotional field. And at that point, they identical outcomes. They isolate you from other people's energy. They protect you, and they will also help you understand who you are versus anybody else around you. So at that point, let's see if we can get this thing to work. Cool. All right. So understanding these new tools We ended up getting them through a lot of folks at a lot of conferences. And when people experience them, it's pretty dramatic and life-changing. So the Metatron pendants were a staple of what I was showing out, what can happen. So the pendant, although it has this same energy and different aspects to it, the reason it works the way it works is the understanding of how the Tensor technology works. The Tensor technology creates a energetic beam of energy coming out through the top. It's like a flashlight coming out the side of this ring on both sides. And it has a field in the middle that's similar to blowing bubbles, the soap film. That soap film interacts with the crystals, and the crystals actually the energy of the crystals is radiated out through that tensor field. So those crystals actually interact with you and actually latch onto your field and help you on that aspect. So that's the interesting part on how those work. Interesting, through all the different work that we have done, working with the Tensor technology, they actually had different tools out there that actually are part of the Tensor technology field. So you have rings, you have coils, you have spheres, and the spheres are out there, been out there for a very long time. These coils actually are another field of, I call it energy healing, that are very similar to Reiki healing, where somebody would actually go in and actually do counterclockwise, pulling energy out until you feel it, then the negative energy has been removed, and then clockwise to push the energy back into it. This coil is a similar tool, drawing energy in one side and then pushing energy back out onto the other side. Those two aspects actually enable you to actually do Reiki work without putting yourself in the middle if you're not comfortable with or used to doing that type of energy work. One of the aspects of doing one of these coils, though, is you can actually add a crystal to it and tune the energy healing you are doing, whether it's actually root chakra, crown chakra, throat chakra, and put a stone in it that'll actually help you amplify that healing aspect into those. So these tools are very interesting in that. And as of lately, in the last year, we have come up with a very powerful, what my wife likes to call a generator. And this thing is very, very powerful in its own. It has 7 different tensor rings in it, different sizes. And through intention, you can actually make this thing do some pretty crazy things. Yesterday, I had it out there to actually keep the majority of the thunderstorms from hitting us. We got a lot of rain, but we didn't get any really nasty thunder and lightning and all of that, which was rather interesting. The first time we had an interaction with this, my wife and I were just sitting there. She was holding half, I was holding half, and she had a direct connection to a individual that almost everybody in this room may have heard of before, Stephen Greer. And it was really interesting. Stephen Greer came up to Vivian and was like, "Who are you?" And it was rather interesting. So over the next 3 nights, Stephen Greer came to her and tried to figure out who she was. So it was really interesting how the connection works with that tool.
You mean he came metaphysically?
Right in the metaphysical. Came right up into her face. I'm like, "Okay, who are you?" Oh, yeah.
Remote viewing.
Remote. Yeah. So it's really interesting. Let's see. What? Question?
Is that the toroidal? That looks like the toroidal field? Like is am I saying it right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it looks
It's based off of the toroidal field, the torsion fields. Yes, all the tools are actually, even the pendants, are based off that torus energy field. So yes, like I was saying, that's like a flashlight of energy coming out both sides. It's a torus field coming out of these. And that torus field actually latches with your own torus.
So it has its own.
Correct.
Plus yours that you have.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. It actually joins your field, and that's where the energy side of things actually connect. And it's with all of these. All of these tools are basically a torus generator. Okay, well, we'll go into questions then. Anybody have any questions? Possible. I really had a question. I figured.
Do you want people to try holding or wearing or
Absolutely. Would anybody like to try one of these on?
How much does it cost for the set? And do you have to wear one ankle? The ankle is it a set? You put one on each ankle?
Yes, we're starting to actually work on having it actually so people purchase a set because it keeps your energy field balanced.
And then with the pendant, do you have it set? Awesome.
Yeah.
Just want to get the microphone.
Would you explain this ankle one again?
The anklets.
Because the tendon that is emotional, the ankle was what?
The anklets are made from the unity ring. And the unity ring is grounding. It helps balance your chakras, centering. And it also helps us draw back in soul shards, the pieces of energy that you leave at emotional points in your life, whether it's this lifetime or previous. You're welcome. Yes?
With the coil, is one end to pull out, the other end to put in, or?
With this coil, yes. Yes, it's actually energy in on one side, energy out on the other.
Specific, sort of,
Yes, you can actually identify which side is which. If you're not 100% energy sensitive, you can usually go like this and feel warm or cold. Cold is energy in, warm would be the energy out. So when you're energy out, that's where you would put your crystal to actually change the frequency of the coil and how it's working. So it's always going to be drawing in, always going to be pushing out. And it transmutes the energy that's being drawn out from negative to a positive state. Yeah, these coils have been out for many, many years. Yeah, and most of the time, when you're looking at the coils out on the market, the interesting part is they're just taking copper, winding it, and actually terminating it with a copper ball on it. These are actually made from the actual what do you call it, qubit links. So there's energy based in the actual cut of wire, specific links that give you a resonant frequency. Yeah. So I usually make them out of a galactic qubit. So it's actually extremely high vibration connecting to our higher selves. So when you're actually doing the healing, it's always for the highest good for yourself.
Peter, what is the cost on the ankle?
The anklets, a pair is $300. Yes. Yes, yes, ma'am.
How long do you have to wear the set, the anklets, and the pendant to heal something?
It's usually pretty straightforward, right up.
I felt it right away.
Yeah, it's
Especially when I
immediate.
put it on.
Yeah, it's pretty much immediate.
And what do you feel like? I'll try it, but you could explain it. What do you feel?
Truthfully, I don't do that for a very specific reason. I don't want to put my impression on what you're going to feel and you're going to experience when you feel your own energy for the first time. Because the energy doesn't do anything to you, it just protects you from everything else. So the tools are not here, it's not some super high vibration, we're going to make you go to 5D by just putting these things on. That's not the intent of these tools. These tools are helped you to protect you and shield you so that you can grow at your rate without bumping into somebody that's really, really negative and drawing your energy back down. That's the entire intent of these tools.
So you feel much more powerful in proximity to negative
Correct.
than in the happy part, right?
Yep. And the tools are what I've been calling it like intention training wheels. It helps you, and they amplify your intention when you're actually working with them. And we've used them multiple times for make yourself invisible to somebody that would do an attack on you if you're under an energetic attack, which worked very, very well. And when you're going into an environment, not necessarily under attack, but shield me from anybody that would do harm to me, energetically or physical, and actually it'll push them away. It'll make it repulsive to them to get anywhere near you. Absolutely. Oh, hey. Okay, thank you, Eric. Yes, all the tools are on the website. Yeah. Can I have these ones? Thank you.
Very nice and made. Tell me again what that's for.
What is this for? These? Let's just say you have like an injury or pain, right? You'll actually remove the energy that has been creating the discomfort or pain. And then you flip it back over. Now, you're going to be removing the energy. You don't want to go too far. So you have to literally be focused on your intention on for how far you want to pull. Flip it over, and then you push energy back until you intentionally, intuitively know, okay, that's enough. And let your body balance back out again. And then you can continue on after your body rebalances.
You made that?
Yes.
How do you use it? Do you aim
It's,
it
yeah,
like a,
just like this. And just move it around,
and
trying to
that
pull
would
the
be, you have a sore on your elbow and you're doing that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Pull the energy out of your elbow, and then push the energy back to actually allow it to heal. We've had 3 experiments with that, and one was in actually contact in the desert about 2 years ago. There's this young man doing all the media. So he was walking around with this backpack with these giant camera lenses and all this other stuff, and he was way down by it. And on the 3rd day, he was going, it's like, okay, I'm going to sit down. He was checking his stuff out. He's like, oh, my back is killing me. He sat down. We talked about it. He used one of those, and his pain was removed. And it was pretty cool. And by the end of the show, he had purchased one. He's like, I'm going to be using this thing all the time. And we did the Vegas show. Just one moment. The Vegas show, we had 2 ladies come up, and they had some hip pain. And there was actually something that was more of a chronic condition for them. Whatever it was caused energetically. And they ended up using those tools, and both of them purchased a coil right then and there on the spot. I had no more with us. And they were experimenting, they were with friends, and they were just like, okay, working on it, put the energy back, and then they'd take a little walk, and you can actually see the way they walk shifted. And they'd do it again, and it would shift again. And by the time they were done experimenting, it's like, sold, completely done. The tools will actually sell themselves because they just work. Yes.
So pain and injury and disease don't exist in a bubble, often they have a message.
When you,
or
yeah.
a DNA strand or something that has a meaning, they're not in a vacuum.
No.
So when you're doing healing, what if you haven't gotten the message yet?
It won't heal. There are some conditions that are here for your karma. There are some conditions you come in to experience. Now, if you're here and you're holding on to too much energy in a particular area, and then I can pull it out, then those tools will work for you right away. But you can't be expected to actually remove it unless it's for your highest good.
So that tells you something when they don't work.
Correct.
Very
If you can't feel the tool, that means you're not ready for the tool, or the tool is not ready to work for you. Because they are very, very much, they're very powerful in their own right. Welcome.
How do you know which polarity is, there's a lip, it's different on each side, one side has a bump, you can tell which side sucks it and which side puts it back?
Visually, you can see it. The brazing mark is at the edge on one side, and that's the output side. So there's a brazing mark.
Outputs, meaning
It's pushing energy
push
out.
it back in.
No, output is energy pushing out.
Oh, pushing out, to suck it, like a vacuum, suck the pain out.
Yeah, the sucking comes on the other side. It'll pull the energy from that, yeah.
Is this the same way, I have the Slim Sperling, similar one, but
Yes.
he has the beads on
Yep.
it too. Do you have the beads inside on there?
There's no beads on this one. The difference between some Sperling's one, he was using the actual dot to amplify, or the ball to amplify. This one is being amplified by actually using the actual different frequencies from the cuts of wire.
Also, you're using a higher gauge
A
wire.
higher gauge wire, and also the specific length and cut of wire to actually change the tuning of it.
Excellent,
Yeah,
excellent, thank you.
you're welcome. And you had a question, sir? No? Okay.
Looks like an infinite strand.
Yeah.
Did you like weld it somewhere?
It's welded in there. The energy out is on this side here. That'd be energy out, that's energy in.
Yeah. Wow, it's really, really cool. I definitely feel something going on there.
Yeah. That's not the most powerful one I've made. That one is actually a build I made a few years ago. And I ended up shipping all of the more powerful ones I had literally 2 days ago.
And what makes it more powerful? Is it a different gauge wire or a different number of coils?
The different frequency I was using.
Just somebody else wants to test this?
That one was made out of a power ring, and we're now making them out of the galactic ring, which is more of a higher chakra. So you can connect to your higher self when you're using it easily, and it's more of the highest good for you. So it ends up being a more powerful pendant, or a more powerful tool. So, on a little bit of a side note, the pendants we also make these ones here, which are selenite and turquoise, and selenite and green mica, which have two different frequency sets. The turquoise tends to be very calming and relaxing, and the green mica is a very heart-centered one. So it actually helps heal and recover from any emotional damage. So some people just need healing. These will help. Somebody stressed out, this one helps.
So all three of the two that are in your hand and one on your chest, those are all Metatron?
No,
No.
the Metatron is a very specific set.
Okay, is it with specific crystals?
Yes.
Or what makes Metatron different than the other two in your hand?
It is the crystal set. The Metatron comes with tanzanite, morganite, lapis lazuli. We got black onyx and tigerite.
Okay, one more question.
Yeah.
Does it have anything to do with the circular patterns, or is it the crystals and the
The pendants are just a outcome of a change and a shift of using the anklets themselves. So the anklets are the actual Metatron channeled message initial, and then we end up going into the pendant. So the pendant is just a different design. You have the two circles in here are both emotional rings. So they're both tensor rings to help heal emotional energies. And with the inside the tensor rings here, it actually amplifies the crystal energy from each one.
So, but the Metatron is the one that is for protection.
Correct.
Shield you.
Yes. Anybody else? Questions?
Do you have a workshop where you teach people to make those coils?
No. Not yet. Not yet. There are videos out there from other creators showing you how to create the tensor technology, and that's why it's so prevalent out there. And some people are calling it the Tesla technology that was rediscovered through frequency and wavelengths. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. I'm sorry? Yes. That's what some people talk about that. Yeah. Very cool. Yes, you did very good things. Yes, sir.
So I didn't feel anything on the bracelets right away on the anklet, but then after like 5-6 minutes, I started feeling kind of pulsating. I don't know if it's just, it was right after you said if it doesn't work on you, you're not ready for it. So maybe it was just my ego saying you're ready for it.
No, you're probably having expectations. And once you relax your expectations, it allows it to work. That's why I don't tell people how this pendant's going to feel.
But I did not feel the pendant. I felt the anklet quite strongly.
Yeah, they're two different energies.
How much is that coil?
200. Yeah.
Can I see the coil?
Who's? It's over there somewhere. Okay. Any questions? Nothing? Design what? Oh, yes. We have a few new pendants that are actually going to be coming out, and it's going to be a Archangel Metatron pendant, but we're looking at actually incorporating about 10 other crystals into it, and it's going to be in a Merkaba design inside a tensor ring. So it's going to be all embedded inside of this with all the different crystals. And that was actually a channeled message about a month and a half ago. We're still working out all the design aspects of it. I have no idea. Well, we're actually going to have all the stones cut to actually make it fit all in there. So it's going to be very powerful. We can feel that it's going to be very powerful. We just don't know yet.
Do you hand construct every one of those things?
Yes, these are all handmade. The new one is going to be probably more machine cut for the crystals and then handmade after the cuts. Yeah. So these take about 5 to 6 hours a piece to create.
Is that resin?
Yes, that's resin. And that's part of the energy of these, is because when you actually have a resin, the resin shrinks as it cures. And I think Alan talked about this yesterday, is when you put crystals under resin, the resin actually shrinks down and compresses the crystal, and the crystal releases more energy. So the combination of resin compressing crystals inside of a tensor field, projecting it and amplifying it, they're pretty powerful.
Very beautiful work.
Oh, thank you.
Would you consider in the future selling just the pre-cut wires with instructions for the poor people? Spend the $5, or probably 20 hours, you have to make 100. So to make it work.
Syndicate it. You know what? Do a GoFundMe.
There you go.
People
When I first started making these, it was 100% on sandpaper. And, 80 grit trying to sand down something like a garnet or something like that is so, the stones are so hard. It took a long, long time to get the crystals to actually become flat. And then you get the what it looks like now. And it just took a long time. It took a couple of years for the product, for me to understand how I can change the way it looks and how to change it.
Mine would be ugly and wouldn't work.
No, not at all. I'm just saying it would probably take you about 20 hours because when I first started, it took a very long time to create. You're welcome.
I just want to say they're magnificent, and when someone asks you the price, your energy kind of drops, and they're worth every penny.
No, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Double or triple. I mean, I can feel what you put into them.
Yes, it takes a lot of
So
energy
that
to create.
exchange is beyond reasonable.
It is.
And I'm not just, I would have said that no matter what. They're fantastic.
Yes. No, the energy of these tools is very powerful. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of work, yes.
I put the ankle on and the tendon, and I wept.
Yeah.
I could feel myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if you put the anklets on and the pendant on at the same time and just relax into the energy field of it, it allows you to feel who you are without any interference, without any other aspects of anybody else, whether it's the building or somebody sitting next to you.
I also feel the purity of my energy.
Yep.
The divine masculine coming to me again. I think that's what's making me.
Yeah. Well, that's part of my source. I'm from the angelic realm for that. So it comes through the work.
When I ask how much something is, it's so I can figure out how long it's going to take me to get it.
Yes.
Please repeat the question so that after she asks, I'm not going around with her.
Okay, that wasn't a question. That was just a statement.
Oh, good.
So you're selling them at your booth out there at the tent?
Yes, no, we sell them at the on our website, and while we're here, you can get them at the booth for what we have left in inventory. Yes. Cool. Well, I guess that will be it. And thank you very much.
Thank you.